The Fever Dream of the Maltese Falcon, a Taipei Noir, year 2080, Episode 7. The 1 million Upside residents were experiencing a sunny 32-degree afternoon. 303,701 reported infections, 11,433 deaths. The urban central AC was in full effect, blasting away the 46-degree heat in full force in the downside. Bubble-wrapped sidewalk cafes were full, and the Dome Park was spotted with small, equal patches of picnickers and nappers, even though it was midweek and most people in the Upside were in a continuous cycle of downtime. Aggressive landlords played their cards right in the past, and the tipping point toppled over when the virus lockdown started pushing most downsiders into unemployment, and the imperialists foot the bill for the rest. The Upside landlords only worked once a month, collecting rent from the downside, which really meant checking their bank balances online. Since capital punishment was introduced for those who didn't pay up, collection was a cinch, and for those who didn't pay, it was considered suicide by rent, which was oddly becoming more common. The rest of an Upsider's time was spent sipping the now in vogue true bubble tea, otherwise known as TBT, with imported Cantonese pineapple buns for the province of Hong Kong, with a fat slob of real, locally made French butter from synthetic Swiss cows. Lummix didn't have time for any of that. She had tried the baked delicacies once, and only tasted deception. But for good reason. She knew the younger generation of the Upside needed to find a way of life to call their own, and with the restrictions implemented by the imperialists, that was exceedingly more difficult than from times past. Besides, dealing with shady sweets was a step up from the drug-fueled violence that decimated the city before prescriptive measures to enforce prescription anxiety drugs were taken. The Upside, which was formerly known as Dàshān, was a good place to die, but not from the virus. Rigorous testing at a prohibitive cost took place before entry was permitted. This way, only correct citizens were granted entry, effectively keeping out undesirables who only wanted to take advantage of some of the benefits the Upside had to offer. Creature comforts abound, from massage park benches to unlimited all-you-can-eat everything. There was no reason to leave, ever, and most people didn't. Lummix was in a position where she could stay, but that was by design. She had a chance, unlike the majority of her peers, and decided not to play it safe. Detective rule number 6, safe is for suckers. Safe was boring, and she traded in the extremes. That was the only way she got things done, by taking chances. People had to die. That was life. In the Upside, when people died, it was referred to as taking a break, partially because cryogenics had become a thing, and it was considered reasonable that the dead would rise again, but mainly because no one wanted to face the feelings connected to loss. Money was supposed to buy everything, and in the Upside, it almost did. The hotel that Dàshān asked Lummix to meet him in was one of the new staffless joints with robots. Usually these places were a nightmare of surveillance cameras and sensors, but recent amendments allowed certain individuals the right to temporary privacy, and Dàshān was one of those individuals. However, Lummix had a fix too. Lummix tele-helloed her virtual assistant Xiaohua. "Yes, Lummix," Xiaohua responded. "How can I help you?" "I need you to access the Great Eastern Hotel security panel and activate that invisible cloaking thing." "Of course, Lummix." Xiaohua was the perfect virtual assistant because she never had questions and always got to the point. Lummix wondered if she was real. Like a real AI, Xiaohua seemed never to sleep, and she was always business, but sometimes Lummix thought she could see what looked like a glitch in her filter. Either way, that worked for Lummix, since human character traits were not as familiar anymore after the Imperialists sucked the will out of everyone. I can guarantee an override for at least 45 minutes. After that, they'll be on to me, and I'll need to get out of their systems before they can track me, said Xiaohua, as keyboard clicks could be heard. There it was, the glitch in the metaverse. There shouldn't be tapping sounds if there was no person to tap them. On the other hand, AIs had learned that tapping sounds were soothing to humans and were being incorporated in the AI assistance agencies. Good enough. Lummix knew she didn't need that long unless Dàshān turned into a talker, which was not uncommon for the sons of the Imperialists. The hotel was grand, as expected, and boasted luxury versions of standard amenities, like boutique luxury bomb shelters. Most people felt that that was overkill, but the Imperialists knew that the best way to exact revenge on a regime was to use its own tactics against itself. Besides, the Great Eastern Hotel had a frozen yogurt machine. Lummix was not surprised when she arrived on the hotel's top floor. Dàshān's room wasn't so much a room, but rather the entire floor, all 5,000 square feet of it. My lady, please have a seat. I'll stand, thank you. Lummix didn't like to be hustled. Dàshān was definitely full of himself. His pampered, rotund physique didn't lend itself to the notion of a glutton who frequently engorged himself on imperialist potato chips and soda, but rather a gourmand who enjoyed an exuberant amount of delicacies that would need to be transported onto the island by heliglobe within 24 hours' notice. Swedish strawberries were a must, along with Fortune lobster. If out of territory was temporarily prohibited, then Buddha jumps over the wall would have to suffice. But madame, these seats are exquisite. Dàshān's meaty claws molested the silk and cashmere covering the armrest. You'll never live another day to touch such elegance. Without taking that as a threat, I trust I'll get to sit in a chair again. Dàshān guffawed. Oh, I didn't mean it as a threat, just that these are to die for. Let's just get down to business, Lummix insisted. A drink? Dàshān reached for a crystal decanter, sitting squarely in the middle of a large, extinct redwood table, the twill suit covering his belly pressed over and presumably under the table as he struggled to reach the whiskey. I had a boy here before, but I finished with him and sent him away, Dàshān explained his clumsiness. He poured himself a drink and offered one to Lummix. She didn't hesitate. Detective rule number 6.5. Always say yes to fine whiskey. I assume this is at least 40 years old, Lummix said as she savored a sip. 400, Dàshān chuckled. I've never tried anything younger. Lummix decided to sit. Your henchman, Wessel, said we should talk. Let's talk. What do you want to talk about? Dàshān coyly inquired. It doesn't work like that. I'm here. Tell me what you've got, Lummix snapped back. With my whiskey in your hand, Dàshān sneered. Very well. There's an issue of a certain cure that has been on the market that I'm interested in procuring, but there are some complications. You want the cure, but you're dried up, Lummix stated. I am by no means dried up, Dàshān indicated the ostentatious luxury that surrounded him. By no means. But your boy can't do it, and you clearly can't do it alone, Lummix cut back. There might be some sad truth there, Dàshān admitted. Cut me in for half, and I can help you. That's preposterous. Culinarians abound, Dàshān protested. Too many cooks? Oh well, 400 years down the hatch. Lummix gulped her whiskey. Let me know when you're for real. Lummix stood up. That is a fine chair, but I think the hotel is scrimping on the whiskey. Probably cut with red label. She smacked her lips. Woody aftertaste, and not the good kind. Dàshān looked deep into his glass with regret. Let me know by 5 o'clock. And she left. Lummix was sitting with Huang, a partner from years back when she was on the police force. Huang had found the job too punishing and jumped over to the DA's office and worked his way up from there, tooth and nail sort of thing. Of course I consider you a friend, but business is business, Huang explained. You know the chances of me committing a crime like that are as likely as you passing on another slice of birthday cake, Lummix quipped. If it's chocolate, sure, but not the chemical variety, that's a pass. And Chung Ho has compelling evidence. A 45-degree angle from behind, pointing at Luther's head, is compelling, but nowhere near concrete. Lummix shot back. And witnesses put you at the scene, Huang added. He was dead when I got there, Lummix insisted. Then there's nothing to worry about. The criminal analytic system is probably being overcautious, he explained. Right, and sending Chung Ho after me in the process. Ho's got a job to do. You know that better than anyone. Collecting surveillance credits isn't a job, Lummix countered. What can I say? Either charge me or leave me alone. Lummix hit the table with her fist. And say hi to your wife for me. I miss her. On the street, Lummix was admiring the clean sidewalk. The upside definitely had its perks, and the existence of sidewalks was one of them, not just clean ones. Across the way, she spotted Wessel, Dàshān's henchman. He must have followed her to the DA. He's gonna think I squealed, she sneered, and continued to hustle down the street. Wessel jaywalked across the busy street after her, his long coat flapping around, causing him to trip up and miss a troop transporter by a mere millimeter. You got to be more careful in the downside, Lummix warned. I see people go down all the time. Did you just squeal on us to the cops, Wessel asked. Lummix broke into a toothy grin. You know, I was just thinking that you would think that. Did you? Please tell me how that would benefit me. I'm already dealing with my own problems because of Luther, and if you keep coming at me like this, maybe it's in my best interest to set you up with that one. Cops are looking for a chump, and I may just be looking at him. This pissed Wessel off, and he pulled out a Luger pistol that was literally from the 1940s. Do you even know how to load that thing? Lummix smirked, pulling her hands back soberly. Shut up, Wessel quacked, pointing the gun in earnest. I'm taking you back to see Dàshān. He's going to make you an offer you can't refuse. You sure don't have a sense of humor. Lummix turned and walked back to the hotel, with Wessel holding up the rear. In the revolving doors of the entrance lobby, Lummix had a moment and pushed the door back into Wessel's wrist, not only pushing the gun out of his hand, but commandeering it for herself. She was not one for gun violence, so she activated the trigger lock and held it by the barrel. This could also come in handy if she decided to pistol whip him, which was the type of gun violence she relished in the past. Subscribe to Taipei Noir on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcast. And please share with friends. Taipei Noir is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, Non-Derivatives 4.0 International License, which means share it with your friends, but don't use it in your own work and don't sell it. See you on the downside.